am so excited about today's guest, so please excuse if I'm crazy fangirling over here. I love Nadine Artemis. She's the creator of Living Libations, and I'm so honored to be interviewing her today. Hi. So I was just telling you, I first met you and found out about Living Libations at the longevity conference, David Wolf's longevity conference back in 2012. And ever since then, it just opened up a whole new world for me. I was really into wellness then, but it was just a completely different level of well-being that you were sharing. And the essential oils and how powerful they are and just everything that you've created and really true clean beauty. Sharing that with women and just everything that you stand for, I love and I follow so closely. So I'm just really excited to talk to you today. And so thank you, for being who you are and sharing the information. And, everything from dental health, I love following closely. So I have so many questions there. A couple of the conferences you spoke about breast cancer and also about sunscreen. And I think that's really important information that I feel so lucky to have had access to. But still, I think a lot of our listeners probably don't know that information. So it's really great to share. And then also, finally, I want to talk today about just diet in general, because I think that's such an important topic today and something at the fullest that we have looked into a lot. I used to be very neurotic about the food that I ate because I researched so much and I applied everything that I researched, but ultimately I found everyone's different and what works for me doesn't work for someone else. And I can't be vegan, raw, paleo, and everything all at once because then it doesn't leave much option. And one day I went to the Venice store and someone at the Venice store, I think it was Zia, she was telling me you had somewhat of a similar experience. I think maybe not like mine, but how you're really holistic in how you approach it. So I'd love to start with that, really, about how you view all these different diets from keto to anti-lectin to vegan to all these things and how you approach it.
Yeah, there's certainly, we have a lot of education. There's a lot of options out there. And I've definitely, dived into all of those and was actually vegan for a long, long time. And the good thing about that, though, is it did prevent me from eating hormone-laden meat for a while. But my journey started for diet and health and understanding all that when I was 18 and I was at university. And I was skipping my class that day, and I happened to just see a talk show with Lisa Bonet and Raul Julia on that, and they were talking about Diet for a New America. And that was a really radical concept back then. But oh my God, like the food and the environment, they're all hooked, inextricably bound, and especially with health, just that we didn't really talk back then about how food and health were connected.
Yeah,
It's like so
crazy.
obvious now, and food and growing and how it grows in the environment. And it would take I can't remember the stats, but 50 gallons of water, must be more than that, to raise cattle, and just, on and on and on. So from that moment forward, I actually never ate processed food again, and I always ate organic or wild. And so
that's a big step for a university student.
Really excited. And the great thing is there was a farmer's market there, and I lived by a little health food store that was converted out in an old house. It was literally on my walk home.
Wow. Where did you go to school?
So that was I live in Canada, so that was in Ontario. I went to University of Western, and then later I transferred to University of Toronto, which of course, Toronto has a lot of options.
Yeah.
So that was really good. Sort of guiding that. And that actually also led me to really just look at what I was putting on my body. So it was a whole awesome moment. And of course, refining it over, it's very macrobiotic then.
Yeah.
But then really, coming in my 20s, coming to understand the horrors of soy.
I know.
Which was so crazy. And it actually was affecting my moon cycle at that time, but I didn't put it all together.
Oh my gosh, that was so long ago that you tapped into that,
Oh,
though,
yeah.
because that was I
Yeah.
mean, even before the soy craze, essentially. I mean, it was there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, soy was the answer to all of,
the
the
vegan
vegan
stuff,
thing.
yeah.
And so then luckily discovering raw like got me off that macrobiotic soy situation.
Hmm.
Later to have other issues perhaps. But it was really when I was diving into dental research and also having conceived of a child and been pregnant and given birth and really did like some really hardy long-term breastfeeding
Yeah. How long did you nurse for?
for about 4 years.
Wow,
I really wanted it to
amazing.
just be a natural weaning situation, and it
Yeah,
was amazing.
that's so inspiring. I'm
Yeah.
still going, and I'm
Yeah.
probably going to go 3 or 4, I
Yeah, it
think.
was just
So,
like when you really see how the milk changes, toddler milk is different for the immune system. And
wow.
I was always like, I didn't know how that moment would be. And we are
Hmm.
actually in Hawaii when he weaned, and it had been a couple of days. So there was like nothing left in the cupboard.
Yeah.
And he went on, and there was nothing there. And he just laughed and laughed and
Oh my
laughed. And we were on
gosh.
this little beach in Molokai,
Oh,
and it was glorious. So that's
yeah.
really awesome. So then really just, looking at the work of Weston Price and stuff, I was just like, we do need other nutrients, and also the work of Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez. He really
Hmm.
has about 10 dietary prototypes.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard of him.
Yeah, and he's no longer with us, but he was is an amazing cancer doctor, and his research is awesome. And Kelly Brogan, Dr. Kelly
Yeah,
Brogan,
I love her work.
talks about his work a lot
Okay.
because she was actually mentoring with him in his last 6 months. So that's a great wealth of knowledge that we have
Hmm.
available. But you could be vegan, but you've really got to supplement it because you
Yeah.
really are missing key nutrients. And I think,
And that's affecting our dental health.
yes.
Okay.
And I've seen a lot of people's teeth over the years, just
Wow.
because, and when
Everyone
you look,
comes to you and says,
yeah.
ah.
And you really can see, and especially, in children, and they're not getting those nutrients, or in adult vegan, you can start, in many cases, start to see that gray, glassy teeth. And it's because they're not getting those fat soluble vitamins up
Wow.
into the pulp chamber. And that's like, not a healthy situation.
Wow. So what should they supplement with, or what is it that they're non-vegans are getting it
Yeah, well,
from?
you really need K2, which would be found in grass-fed, ghee. Obviously the cow's eating the grass, not the ghee, or a grass like
Raw
dairy, like
butter.
eggs and cheese, and
Okay.
it's golden. You'll get that golden situation.
Hmm.
You can get a K2 made out of fermented natto, which is a fermented
Oh
soy.
yeah.
So if you are eating
Hmm.
soy, it has to be fermented, period. And then there's just don't eat any other type of soy. Um, and then D3, so sunshine
Hmm.
and the supplement, and just, healthy fats. So you'd want to make sure that you've got the avocados and coconut oil going. The thing, though, too, is that where a lot of vegetarians and vegans can, where it seems okay, but there's the phytic acid, which is an anti-nutrient. There's the lectins and the gluten. So often vegan and vegetarian diets can be very high in grains and like lentils, legumes. And those
Yeah.
are actually, there's a lot of anti-nutrients in there, and there's a lot of things that can create a leaky gut.
Hmm.
And so there really is no one diet for all. And it took, it was a lot to come off vegan I
I
was for
know.
18, almost 20 years.
Yeah, I'm
And I
sure.
really get it. Like I get the ethics of it. I get it
I
all,
get it
but
all
my
too.
body just
Yeah.
needed something else. And then also, so it was such a slow unraveling of all that. But at
Was
this,
that what after you had your son?
yes,
Okay.
and then just really needing other things in my
Hmm.
body, but also coming even off of raw, and then but lentils weren't really doing it for me either. And,
Hmm.
just out. And again, whatever choice we made with an animal food, we always would choose like the highest. So it's like, the goat, pastured goat,
Hmm.
dairy, or that kind of thing. But dairy doesn't totally work for me either. So I'm kind of
So,
pagan now,
yeah.
the paleo vegan. But there
Yeah.
really are vegetables are not harmless food either. And there really could be serious issues for people if they've got an
Hmm.
autoimmune and they're eating lectins or high things in oxalates.
Hmm.
So I do think there are some food rules. Like I don't think, GMO corn, wheat, soy, like nobody should be eating
Yeah.
those. And the rest you kind of have to figure
You
out.
play around with it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I had an issue with my thyroid, and
Yes.
I was eating so much kale and all the cruciferous
Yeah.
vegetables, and it really set me off. So But now it's like, I think once you kind of figure out what works for you and what doesn't and eat intuitively, then you don't have to stress as much about it, but have these sorts of, so this balance where I know that I'm not going to eat these 3 things or these 4 things that I know are not good and they're changing my DNA, because we know that GMOs change our DNA and they're just
Yeah.
not good.
Nope.
But going into the dental stuff,
Yes.
because I think this idea, I mean, just hearing you talk about how our mouth and our teeth are alive and they're living beings, they're living structures in our mouth, and we can heal them instead of
Mm-hmm.
just cut right into them if, that we need a root canal or whatever. And I mean, I've had a root canal and I have like one tooth where I'll probably want to show you if we end up having time. But it's like, I want to know, I would love for you to share this idea, because not very many people are tapped into that, of the fact that our mouth is an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And then tapping into, so what if you do need work? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are the steps?
Yeah, those are great questions. And yeah, I mean, the way I was raised, you kind of just feel like the teeth, they grow in and they're fixed, and then whatever happens, that's the end of it. But as we know with a lot of things now, everything's connected in the body, and the mouth is obviously connected to the body, to the endocrine system, to the digestive system, to the alimentary canal. I mean, it's all connected. And so diet is very key, that we're getting the proper nutrients and fat soluble vitamins to keep our teeth healthy. And a lot of, if there are things going in the mouth, you want to amp up the dietary care. And then we also have 8 steps that are really good to follow. And because the current condition of your mouth can change. The gum, if you've got gum pockets that are a 7 or a 9, you can bring them back up to a 2 or a 3.
What does
You,
that mean?
oh, that's like receding
Oh,
gums.
okay. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
someone who works closely with me who has that.
Yeah, so you've really got to tend to the area, but whatever you're currently doing, is not going to get you out of that. So, it could be the dental products, the diet, the way that you're brushing or teeth grinding at
What
night.
about lemon? Is lemon as bad as they say?
It can be if your enamel's a bit weak, or if your own saliva isn't that alkaline, and then that
Oh,
extra acidic hit
wow.
is a bit much. So the saliva is supposed to be, it's like the ocean of your mouth, and your teeth are supposed to be in a sea of alkalinity. So you want to be testing your saliva. If you're having dental issues, you want to make sure you're not mouth breathing. I mean, that's
Hmm.
really one thing that can really wreak havoc on the mouth. You can get mouth tape, especially for children. So you want to look at their diet and, like, maybe they're eating dairy and that's not allowing them to breathe, because it will literally, the face will grow differently
Yeah,
if
I've
you're mouth
heard that.
breathing. Yeah.
Well, my son has a lip tie and a tongue tie, but it didn't get in the way of our nursing.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
good.
didn't do anything, because it's recommended sometimes to cut that.
There's also newer treatments that do a laser.
Yeah, that's what someone had said. But then he's had other traumatic stuff happen, like
Aw.
after he was born, because he has a genetic condition.
Mm.
But so I didn't do anything because of that. I decided to wait. But I was told that it would change the structure of his face if he can't properly, I don't know, not detox, but like swallowing and just all of that. So that is interesting that you're saying that it does change the
Yeah, it
structure.
can. Like even braces, which are supposed to, help the face structure, actually change the face structure. So
Wow.
you get a more vertical growth, and they've been able to
Interesting.
study that with twins and stuff, because they would be growing the
Yeah.
same.
So what do you recommend as far as if a family, okay, so what do you think about pacifiers?
I'm not into
Okay,
them.
I didn't think so.
Yeah,
I didn't do
yeah,
pacifiers because I think I read that somewhere with you.
yeah.
And why is it that you're not into it? Because
Well, because for a lot of reasons, but yeah, it's not good for the structure of the mouth, and also, yeah, it's
can you get ear infections and stuff from it, or is that different?
maybe I haven't gone into it in a while. I
Yeah.
just knew when I was in that phase, I wasn't going to be doing that,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. And then if someone wants braces, or do you recommend that?
There's a lot of issues with braces, including the growth, which I think is a deep and real issue, but also they're, generally made out of nickel, which is very toxic. I have a whole chapter in my holistic dental care book that goes into that, and also an article on our website that you can really understand the braces issue.
My thought too with something like Invisalign was
Mhm.
that, I mean, I haven't read anything about this, but if our teeth are living and breathing,
Mm-hmm.
then covering it with plastic,
Mm-hmm.
maybe just outside from plastic being in your mouth all day and all
Mm-hmm.
night,
Mm-hmm.
probably isn't a good idea because they need to breathe. Or what do you
Yeah,
think
it
about
does
that?
affect their respiratory, like the teeth do breathe literally, and
Yeah.
there's an in and out. There is a orthotropics though. There are some solutions, and I talk about those in the article in the book as well. So
Okay,
there are
cool.
options.
And are there people that you know maybe in the LA area or around here that do that?
Yes, there are, and there's like an orthotropic society,
Oh,
and
cool. So
there's
they
a
could just Google it and find out
yeah,
about all that.
yeah.
Another thing I signed up for, but because my son is so young, I think it was around the time he was born, so I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I loved that you had the sound healing.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
is it Oceans of Light
Yeah,
or
that's our
something?
friend
Can you speak on that a
Mahalia.
little?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's she's a beautiful and talented, and she goes into the sound realms. And because the teeth are bones, there's a real resonance there. And a lot of people just were able to clear up some things. It's really neat.
And then you listen to those sounds and it changes just the energy.
Yeah, and she did specific things for dental healing in the dental bliss, like a kind of a audio course.
So cool.
Yeah.
So as far as the steps go, I know there's oil pulling and you have those products. I love your toothpaste, the Winter Green and Clean.
Yeah.
I use that one. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear because you don't use xylitol, and I think that's a really important one to bring up because
Hmm.
most toothpastes have that in it.
Yeah, xylitol, even like glycerin, which seems inert,
Yeah.
is an issue because it actually coats the teeth, and again, it blocks that respiration. It doesn't just wash away after kind of normal rinsing of your mouth. It takes a lot of rinsing, and it's still kind
Wow.
of so that very thin invisible coating doesn't allow the saliva to access the teeth and do its job. And xylitol, the studies that showed it to be effective as anti-cavity were funded by xylitol,
Mm.
whatever
So it's not
society group.
really
So there's those issues. Plus, it's like a sugar alcohol, and it also shows to be not so great on the guts and the blood-brain barrier. So it can create a leaky gut situation, which is why in higher amounts people will get gas and diarrhea, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So it's not an ideal ingredient, and it
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be effective against bacteria. I mean, the cavities.
So, if you have a gut issue
Hmm.
or other issues that are going on in your body, would your teeth reflect that?
Yeah,
And
generally
it's
it
vice
would. It
versa?
can, because it could mean that nutrients aren't getting up into that pulp chamber. So the thing that's key to know, so we've been sort of living with the acidogenic theory that like sugar and acids on the mouth is what causes cavities. But when we really look at the deeper work and thousands of studies that were done by Dr. Steinman, we see that there's actually, when we chew and we're signaling to the body that we're eating, of course, that connects to the hypothalamus, like pretty much everything in the body, and those create a signaling system. So there's actually a dentinal lymph fluid. It's like the
Wow.
lymph system, but for teeth. So, there'll be nutrients extracted from the food going into the lymph system, and then those nutrients are carried up to the tooth. And that process actually takes about 6 minutes, but then it gets to the pulp, to the tooth, to the pulp chamber, and then this dentinal lymph fluid actually goes out onto the surface of the teeth. And that journey actually takes about an hour, even though it's like very small, because there's a lot of biological activity in there. And so this dentinal lymph fluid brings nutrients to the teeth, and then it actually, through the odontoblast, goes out of the enamel of the tooth like microscopic sweat. And then that fluid coalesces with the saliva. So there's an energy system, a centrifugal energy system, like it's kind of like a tree that draws up nutrients from the root into the trunk. So the
Hmm.
tooth does that, drawing it up into the tooth, and then so it's like this inward and outward thing. When we are not doing so well, that system can stagnate, or in worst cases actually reverse. So then the tooth becomes like a straw,
Yeah.
sucking in the virus and bacteria from the mouth into the tooth, And that's actually how cavities are born.
Wow.
So with the right, mineral messengers and the right food, like just good, healthy, whole food, that signaling system is going to work.
Oh my gosh. So are you going to do a whole book on how to eat well for optimal dental health?
It's in my book, Holistic Dental
It
Care.
is? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't. My gosh, that's amazing. Okay, I'll have to go back and
And then
look
I
through it.
review it, and I review it in Renegade Beauty too. There's a pretty hardy dental chapter in there as well.
I read a lot about your just birth stuff in there.
Yeah.
So I have to now go in and revisit. I made the oil that you had your husband rub on you for pain relief with the marjoram.
Yeah.
And
Did
I
you like
loved it
that?
so much, even though I ended up getting an epidural still.
That's okay.
But it really helped in the beginning stages of labor.
Yeah. When was your birth?
It was August 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
So like a year and a bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because if you think about how sometimes I have a friend who her son ended up needing to take an antibiotic and she, gave it to him and she was really upset about it, whatever. She ended up giving it to him. And then she said his tooth turned a different color from it. So everything that you're saying makes so much sense.
I
right?
talk about that in the book too. I mean,
Yeah.
there are like the fluoroquinolone antibiotics are so crazy for the teeth. I mean, crumbling.
Yeah.
But there you see, there's the example of like
Exactly.
it brings it up into the system that brings it to the tooth.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
can you share a little bit about your dental routine?
Well, I just do the 8 steps, which we have really. It's if I mapped it out, people would
It's
be
a
like
lot,
scrambling
yeah.
to take notes. So go to our site and
You'll see.
Yeah.
The tongue scraping
rinsing with
yeah.
like baking soda or sea salt water, and then using 2 types of brushes to do
Is
the
that-
gums and.
Is that like your powder? Because I have your pearl powder.
Yeah, you can use the pearl powder. We've got the actual paste, like the Wintergreen Clean. And then we also have the dental serums, which are very concentrated drops. And there's even one that's been ozonated that you can use in place
On
of
your
toothpaste.
gum,
You can line your floss with it and then get that
Oh, that's a
botanical
good-
antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral drops right up in between each tooth, which is really good. And then tongue scraping.
Okay, I need
Yeah.
to do that with the floss. So
Yeah, it's
Well,
really
what
good.
do you think about water?
Yeah, water flossing is great
Okay,
too, and you could
cool.
even add a drop, or add a pinch of baking soda to that, so it's
Into the-
alkaline, or one of the dental drops into there.
That's smart. Okay,
yeah,
I'll do
it's just
that.
upgrade it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now let's get into, I mean, there's so many things, but sunscreen.
Yes.
So you did an entire lecture on this, and my mom is an esthetician, so she was with me at that conference, and I was so happy because my whole life she's been like, sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen. We need the highest possible sunscreen imported from France, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden we went in and you just had so much knowledge to share around that. And I mean, people are now looking more into, there's these bigger companies, Kula, and that are organic sunscreens, but they still have the additives that you're talking about, the chemicals. So can we talk a little bit about that? And then if you are going to use sunscreen, what to use?
Yeah. Was your mom convinced?
She really was.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
She was totally
Wow.
convinced.
Yeah.
I mean, she's one of those people that's like, okay, I get it. So I'm not going to say that anymore, but it's part of her routine. So she's still just,
Yeah.
I just need to give her a sunscreen that'll
Take care of it all. Yeah.
Mhm.
That makes sense. And I have a whole chapter dedicated to it in the book as well, because it's a really important subject. So it's like, well, which way in? Because there's so many issues. But we know about the ingredients that are in sunscreens, et cetera, that are endocrine disruptors. And it's crazy. What's the active ingredients in sunscreen, like oxybenzene, is non-carcinogenic until it's exposed to sunlight.
Yeah, so
like-
they're testing it in a lab, not with people out in the sun, basically. Or do they just know?
I mean, it's an ingredient that's used for like different it's a catalyst in lab stuff. So that's one of the main. It's a banned in Europe, but it's used in a lot of
Oh,
countries. And then
wow.
there's just other ingredients. But it's not good for the body or the microbiome. But if we put all of that aside, the main issue with sunscreen is that it divides the UVA from the UVB. So if we're in the sun, so now we got our sunscreen on, then we're just receiving UVA without its ultraviolet partner UVB. So UVB is the one that delivers vitamin D. So there's that. But the worst part, if you're concerned about your skin, is that the UVA delivered all on its own is actually going to create sun damage.
Wow.
And so I cite a lot of studies in my book from, that have been rounded up from the Cochrane Reviews or the, New England Journal of Medicine that really, and I'm generalizing now, but that the use of sunscreen creates more chances of melanoma, more chances of squamous cell carcinoma, more moles, more freckles. So it's, not to mention the endocrine disrupting and the different levels of toxicity. And that you're not only is it this one toxic, but you're like baking it in.
Yeah.
So, and then other studies show that the closer you live to the equator, the more recreational time you spend out in the sun, the less chance you'll get of melanoma. So it's like
So
really
interesting.
mixed up. But you definitely you don't want to burn, and you don't want to just be like going into the sun 1 week a year on your vacation to the Caribbean. You want to work on it slowly but surely. So start in the spring, starting 10, 15 minutes a day, working your way up. And if you have the time, you can really do like half an hour on each side, getting yourself to an hour and really thinking of it as part of your, it's kind of like bathing, like it's an essential thing. And then if you're living in the colder climates like I do, you really want to build that up because from November to April, you're not going to get much. But we're like solar batteries and we can, store that fuel to take us through the winter months. And then you could supplement with like a vitamin D supplement. But often I get asked, well, can I just take vitamin D? But it's a different biology for the body. So the sun, when our skin engages with the sun, and it's been designed for that. We have thousands of vitamin D receptors. And when they're not brimming with vitamin D, then we're susceptible to disease. And so now we know, like 100 years later, why heliotherapy and using the sun to heal things like tuberculosis and Epstein-Barr was effective.
Wow.
Because it's, the sun is so hooked up to our immune system. And now, of course, we have over 3,000 studies that show, how it slashes cancer risk. So if you are sufficient in vitamin D, then your risk of breast cancer is slashed by 50%.
Wow.
Which is one of the most effective things you can do.
I know. I remember in one of your lectures, you were sharing this one place that people used to go to just sit out. It was like a healing center and they would sunbathe.
Yeah, that was in the 1920s in Lausanne, Switzerland. And there was the hospital was totally geared around. It was all just about the sun. So it was like huge verandas and everybody would just be outside wearing just little kind of these white cloth diapers and getting all the sun they could. And it was very effective healing. People came from all over the world.
Oh my gosh, that's really amazing.
Yeah, and that sun was okay then. And even we have Mademoiselle Coco Chanel saying, no outfit is complete without a tan. And then the 40s came and it all changed. And we produced more chemicals and then lobby groups. And I don't know how it all got out of control.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that makes sense because people, money. So if someone doesn't have, or if someone wants to wear sunscreen.
Yes, right. And there's going to be times when, clothing's not going to cut it. So we have, we make Everybody Loves the Sunshine, and one's an oil version, which is just, we call it golden tanning oil because it will just, it's like a sun harmonizer. The word SPF is really only regulated and can be used for chemicals.
Okay.
So there's really, you can't really give it an SPF name. But some plants, oils are kind of like olive oil, coconut, those would kind of be like an SPF equivalent of like a 6, 7, 8.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Because
so
you would think that you burn with that.
Well, it actually is protective and it protects the plant. And then we add other rich pigmented botanicals and things that are healing, either previous sun damage or if you get a little bit burn, it would, cool it down. So that's just something that can extend your time in the sun depending on where you are on the planet and your natural skin tone. It could maybe add 15 minutes to an hour to your time in the sun.
Wow.
Then to block the sun, we have Everybody Loves the Sunshine with zinc. So it's the same ingredients. Then we add zinc to that, and we use a non-nanoized and non-coated zinc molecule. And that's very effective. You've known about zinc for a while, but why that's effective, and that's a block. So it's going to block at about 20%. It blocks, and it works because it deflects the rays. So you're not absorbing, and you're not absorbing the UVA on its own.
Okay.
So you just get that block.
Okay. That makes sense. So it's like wearing clothes, essentially.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. So you kind of have like, the block or the golden tanning oil, but kind of not too much in between. But that's where, you want to know your body and know what it needs. And there's even like a D-Minder app that will put in your geography and the weather and all that, and will let you know how long you need to be in the sun to get that vitamin D that day.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look that up. And really quick, about sunbathing, back to sunbathing really quick, about sunbathing in your genitals and having that. I want to talk about that. I mean, I don't know what to say. Genitals, vagina, whatever, penis.
Genitals.
Yeah.
I was laughing because it was like a month or so ago. I guess the word got out on tanning perineum. So there was like these fun photos of people's feet in the legs up in the sky. And of course, it looks so crazy to the majority of the world. But yeah, you want to, studies show it does increase testosterone. And there's a good Italian expression that Doreen Virtue quoted. It's sort of an anonymous Italian expression, but it's like, the doctor goes where the sun doesn't.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's true.
So and I mean, if you can, you want to, sun with as much real estate of your skin exposed as possible. And if you can get those areas in, that's a good thing.
And on the glycerin, because I know a lot of my son's supplements, I don't like glycerin.
Glycerin instead of alcohol, right? Because it's for glycerin. A kid.
Yeah. So is there anything that you recommend that sometimes maybe or any recommendations for a company? Let's say someone's listening into this podcast right now and they have a company, they might use glycerin. What is a good substitute for that? Do you know?
Well, I think like digestion-wise, haven't really studied it like to take internally. It's not so good on the outside of the skin because it can create osmolarity. But I haven't really thought about what, I'm sure there's other, and you can also, there's pretty cleaner glycerin options, I guess, for the supplement world. But surely there's another medium.
Yeah. And then also on one last thing on the sun stuff, there are a lot of supplements coming out now, like zinc supplements for skincare, for sunscreen in particular.
Oh, supplements?
Yeah. Like I've come across a few brands. I mean, we come across a lot of brands at the Fullest, and and I've come across a few that have been for sun care, but it's so have you had any what do you think about taking zinc internally for that?
Well, zinc, I haven't looked at that research, but zinc is certainly an essential mineral, and it's so good for our immune system. So it's a beneficial thing, but we also want to, as much as possible, get it from our food and herbs, that kind of thing. But definitely, and I cite some studies in my book, but there's a food you can eat for sunscreen too. It shows eating plants rich in pigments is so beneficial. It creates an internal sunscreen,
like
and
carotenoids.
What's
like
that?
Beta carotene?
Just like I'm trying to think of all the foods that are rich in blueberries, spirulina, and drinking chlorophyll in the sun is a great thing to do too.
Oh, okay.
So you want to keep hydrated, and then it just is really good for the blood. And I talk about a little study there because it really is like our form of photosynthesis.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And so, okay, the last thing I know you know a lot about, and you've done a lot of research on breast cancer. And you got into speaking on the topic of bras with breast cancer, and just like our lymphatic system, I'm sure is what that is connected to. But what sorts of information do you think that most people don't have access to that you've researched on with
for breast health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love your breast massage oil so much.
Thank you.
Our managing editor, she ended up having breast cancer a couple years ago, and she uses it now too.
That's nice.
Which I love. So
yeah. So in our, the area of our breast can, with bras and, they get a lot of movement, we can create a lymphedema if our bras are too tight and we're not allowing that circulation. And if we think it's our breast health, but also really when we're speaking of breast health, it's the lateral aspect, including the armpit, because when some women do get breast cancer, they're removing lymph nodes from the armpit and stuff. So it's a very connected area. And we really want to think about our deodorants. Getting that daily microdose of aluminum for a few decades does accumulate in the body and tissues. And when they study diseased breast tissue, 99% show methylparabens are in there, which is a preservative that's used in a lot of cosmetics. And so we really want to keep circulation going. So anytime you're getting out of the bath or the shower and you're applying, I'm always applying the best skin ever, just like a moisturizer. Just take a few extra minutes. You can use something like the breast health oil, but if you just sort of like take that minute and massage it with a little bit more intention and get the circulation going is a really good thing, because it can just get stagnant, and then things can pool up. So that and then the breast health oil was also designed, and I talk about it more in my book, but the essential oils, which are super high in various monoterpenes, which are really effective botanical medicine, those have been shown in studies to be so effective for breast health and the immune system. And many essential oils like blood orange, grapefruit, those oils, they're high in limonene, which is also shown to reduce the pathways for breast cancer as well. So that's really important. And also, a lot of women don't know about iodine. Iodine is very important for breast health.
Nascent iodine is something that you speak on.
Yes.
What's the dose on that?
It's going to be different for everybody. So it's important that people sort of figure that out for themselves. I mean, follow what the bottle says, but you might also, there's a book called Iodine Crisis and another book called Iodine by Dr. Brownstein, and they'll go into dosages and stuff, because there's the regular dose, and then sometimes there's benefits to doing a high dose for a while, so that you can. So iodine's part of the halide family. If you remember your periodic chart. Also in the halide family are like bromides, chloride, and fluoride, and we're getting a lot of that. And so iodine, the friendly halide, will chelate those. So it brings, because our thyroid and breasts have receptor sites for iodine. And if we're not getting the iodine, then it will latch on to those other halides.
Okay.
And so we want to chelate those from our body. And iodine's also an essential mineral, just like magnesium. So we do need it in our bodies. It's found in every cell of the body, and generally, from studies, it's shown that 70 to 90% of the world population is completely deficient.
Wow. And I've heard also omega-3s. Is that for specifically for breast health as well good? Or
those are good in general, but I don't. Yeah, I haven't.
You didn't come across that first.
Not specifically linked.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
It was so fun speaking with you and just learning more about what you're sharing with people. It's so important. I mean, it's so much more than the power of the essential oils. It's really a whole lifestyle, and it's so completely different than how we're approaching medicine in the mainstream and just overall well-being. And I'm so appreciative of your outlook, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you've really opened me up to seeing things in a completely different way.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you.